Hello. I'm Mackenzie Flynn. Church has come to mean many things to me over the past 18 years. At first, it was just a building. Then it became the place I went to learn about God. And finally, it became my home away from home. How I got to where I am now is the real story. When we first came to Asbury, I didn't want to go at all. Going to church just meant that I had to get up early, put on scratchy tights and an itchy dress, and go listen to somebody tell me confusing Bible stories. That is so not what I wanted to be doing on one of my 2 days off from a long, grueling week of middle school. But my parents forced me to go and get up and put on the dress and tights and go to Sunday school. I was quiet and awkward and wouldn't talk to anybody, but I still have faint memories of the class itself. I remember sitting across from Richard and Hayden and laughing at something that one of them said, but I would never have talked to them back then. My first mission trip is really what changed my perspective on church. Mike managed to cram all the middle school youth into one big white van and drive us all to Niagara Falls. We did yard work, worked in a soup kitchen, put donations in plastic bags, and packaged up a lot of black socks. I can honestly say that you form serious relationships with people that you pull weeds with, especially on a hot summer day, especially on a hot summer day directly across the street from a sewage management plant. But the work that we did wasn't what made the trip awesome for me. It was the people that I was surrounded by. Carly Gedice shared her Neutrogena face wash with me, and it made my skin tingle. Everyone took goofy pictures outside our ride of the Maid of the Mist. We all wore the bright yellow ponchos. And we played one huge game of Ultimate Frisbee until it got dark. The Niagara Falls mission trip dragged me into 4 more mission trips: the Adirondacks, Cuba, Tennessee, and Texas. I can still remember specific things that happened during each one, like how in the Adirondacks, I was ridiculed for not knowing Bohemian Rhapsody, and then every adult on the trip then went and sang the entire 6-minute song. Or how in Cuba, we stayed up late on the rooftops so that another girl and I could pluck eyebrows for at least 2 hours. And then in Tennessee, there was this adorable little puppy on my mom's work site that everybody loved. If you ask me, I'm pretty sure that they hung out more with the puppy than did actual work. My mom could say no all day to my sisters and I if we ever asked to take that dog home. But her work group kids, there's no way that she could say no to Keegan White, Brian Carter, or Ben Mack. Much to my dad's dismay, Carly Gedice de-fleed the little puppy and we took her home. She's now 2 years old and we named her Tenny, after Tennessee. And finally, in Texas, while me, Anna, Emily, Allie, and Kimberlyn dug 30-inch holes, Ella and Georgia Ross obsessed over the little kittens that lived under the deck of the house we worked at. Each mission trip has given me new friends that I can rely on. My family has gained so many fantastic relationships from Asbury, and I would never want it any other way. I didn't realize how fun church could be when you're surrounded by the right people. Of course, I come to church in order to learn more about God, but I come to learn more about Him with the people that I love. If there could only be one thing I take away from Asbury, from everything that Asbury has taught me, it would be that love is everything. Asbury accepts everyone for who they are and what they believe in with open arms, and most importantly, Asbury loves unconditionally. It was the love of my friends, it was the love of Jessica Giordano from my family that led us to Asbury. It was the love of my friends that led me to them, and it's the love of my family and the people of the church that helped shape me to be who I am. Asbury itself is just a building, yet the love of the people inside it make it so much more. While I was writing this, I had a really tough time figuring out how to wrap this up, but I came up with this and you might recognize it. May you greet others with an open heart, enter new situations with an open mind, and help the church maintain its open doors. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Hana Beamish, and I do not have any heartwarming memories for you today, but I will tell you that I have just about had it. I have had it with so-called Christians using the Bible to defend hateful views. Most specifically in recent years, even in our home of Asbury, we have struggled with accepting people of all sexualities, most prominently. At our conference, we voted that, not us, but the conference turned out with the vote that we would not be accepting of performing gay marriages in the church, which is quite frankly unacceptable. As Christians, hate should be unacceptable, and this is a clear definer of hate. So we use the Bible to defend these views, but like all books, the Bible is not composed of, so to say, quotable quotes. The most read book in the world is the Bible, closely followed by the Harry Potter series, which, as you've read it, it's a pretty good story, but I would not go quoting the Harry Potter series all the time. So yeah, because of the emotional weight that we put on the Holy Bible, we tend to overanalyze its words and, dare I say, sometimes even take them too seriously. See, I believe that the Bible should not be taken as the final rule of Christianity nor the gold standard. This belief stems from the idea that the Bible was not written by God. It was written by people, and therefore reflects the views of the people which were formed by the age they lived in. Cultural context is critical, and intellectual advancement as a society must be taken into account. Riddle me this one. Why would I take my social cues and make my morals from somebody who had just figured out the wheel? So in relation to modern culture, I believe that this relates to the latest media trend of the cancel culture that's going on. So cancel culture is when we find an old and usually offensive quote from a generally well-respected celebrity and take this to mean that these continue to be their views today. We then publicize this quote and cancel their success as a society. We decide to disregard all of their honorable accomplishments and what they've contributed. We decide we don't like them anymore because they have said one questionable thing in contrast to a myriad of honorable actions. So I ask you this. Why hasn't the Bible been canceled? Because there are several quotes in the Bible that are severely dishonorable. We should not stone women, should not stone gays. I don't particularly think we should stone anyone. But the answer to this is because we hold it in such a high regard as a religious tool. But the Bible is just that. It is a tool that can be used for good or evil, sometimes even evil masquerading as good. We must consider the following quotes. Leviticus 18:22 says, "Do not lie with a man as one lies with a woman. That is detestable." The Bible has quotes on how we should not perform divorce, we should not eat shrimp, wear fabric, 2 or more fabrics together. And as you can see, we don't follow a lot of that. But it's all because we have advanced as a society and we have accepted that sometimes we need to disregard what doesn't apply to us anymore and what doesn't apply to our morals anymore as we begin to understand the human mind and how we relate to others and how we can empathize with others. So some quotes that I would prefer to focus on are, "Anyone who claims to be in the light but hates a brother or sister is still in the darkness." Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. And hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers over all wrongs. In the Bible, it says that the Lord forgives all sins and God hates no one. I believe that that should be the final rule, and we should take that over everything else that has been said. We, as a faith, should be based on kindness and love, not other people's views that were written however many thousand years ago that we should not be taking as our rules. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Liz, and in a couple weeks, I will be graduating from Gates Tri-Li. I started coming to Asbury in 7th grade, and every year, up until now, I would sit in the pews on Youth Sunday and wonder how on earth I'd manage to get up here and say something even remotely intelligent. I thought about talking about my experiences here at Asbury and how the community I found here has shaped me into the person I am today. But I realized I wouldn't be able to get through it without giving you a complete play-by-play of the past 6 years, and nobody wants that, least of all me. So I've opted to talk to you about morality instead, naturally. So when we're little, we're taught that there are only two types of people, right? There are good people and there are evil people. And they only commit two types of deeds, good deeds and evil deeds, respectively. Cartoons and fairy tales alike would have you believe that in order to achieve good person status, you only have to do three things. Thing number one, identify your evil person. Thing number two, find out what he or she is scheming. And thing number three, stop them from doing that. And this is a solid plan in the event that you have a chance encounter with a cloaked figure handing out fruit, or a particularly ambitious anthropomorphic ape. But the majority of people aren't this one-dimensional. Of course, throughout the course of history, there are certainly people that we can approach with this, our little three-step method here, that could probably be considered supervillains, if you will. But the vast majority of people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis are more complicated than that. They've done pretty good things, like donating to the bell ringers during Christmas time, and they've done not as good things, like ignoring those same representatives from charities every other month of the year. So this binary method of looking at morality, again, good people versus evil people, kind of falls apart when trying to navigate everyday life. When you think about it, we all have the capacity to commit acts of kindness and acts of destruction. But this idea of duality doesn't always translate. As a society, we're so quick to break people down into a couple of characteristics that we think accurately describe their whole essence. It's easier to navigate the world if we see people through black and white lenses. This person did a bad thing, so their entire character must reflect that. But if we view our fellow humans with that sort of tunnel vision, we end up making our own decisions in a vacuum, and we can overlook real, tangible consequences. People do bad things for different reasons. Some cause harm with honest intentions, lashing out because of, trying to protect one's family or home, or standing up to one's oppressors, doing what a person's own learned beliefs dictate as the right thing. For others, it's a response to being hurt, or wronged, or persecuted. So what do we do in these situations? Do we still characterize these people as bad? And if we do, where do we as a community even go from there? Do we punish the bad behavior? Do we try to fix the problem at its source? Do we leave it up to the victims to decide? Our job as people of faith is to act as a force of love, right? And that sounds easy enough in theory and even seems pretty instinctual, but in the moment, it does not present itself that way. In a world so quick to judge and so quick to hate and so quick to build fortresses instead of connections, how do we find our way through this labyrinth of wrong turns and hateful, harmful words to the flicker of light that we are so desperately searching for? How do we rebuild communities so damaged by ignorance? How do we break down the walls that stand in the way of communication with our fellow humans? How do we overcome a culture of distrust and anger and fear? I don't have a simple answer. There's no get peace quick scheme that can mend the connections that lay severed in the wake of all this. It all seems really hopeless, and sometimes we get tired. Sometimes we stop trying to spread our message of love and peace and hope because it all just gets too much, and we just figure, what's the point anymore? How much can one person realistically do? And I think we all get like this sometimes, and there's nothing wrong with feeling like this for a little while, but it's important, so important, that we get back up again. Because even though things may seem dark, irreversible even, we have to continue our mission of kindness and peace. In spite of the violence, in spite of the odds, in spite of the whirlwind of global catastrophe, we must march on. When we feel numb to the anger and the fear and the horror of it all, we have to find within ourselves the good person that helps the exiled, that opens lines of communication, that welcomes those who feel othered, because that good person has the ability to change the world. Thank you.